as we kind of game this forward. U.S. former Secretary of State, former head of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, author of the upcoming book, Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love, also a distinguished fellow at the Hudson Institute and a Fox News contributor. Secretary, good to have you here, as always.
It's great to be with you. Great to be in studio with you.
We're at a scary moment in all of this. When this bridge blew up over the weekend, I think a lot of people were elated that it was a win for the Ukrainian side. This is a major supply bridge. I want to remind people how Vladimir Putin felt about this bridge when it was first built. This is back when you were just becoming Secretary of State. Here's what Vladimir Putin said about the bridge that was blown up over the weekend. Watch.
At different historical times, already at the times of the czars, people dreamed of building this bridge. Then they returned to this subject in the 30s, in the 40s, and in the 50s. And now, finally, thanks to your work, your talent, this project, this miracle turned true.
So what was your reaction when you saw that this bridge was blown up, given that background here?
Yeah, I remember this issue very well. It was a follow-on to when this war started. We often talk about the war beginning in February. The truth is, this has been in Vladimir Putin's heart for decades. He took a fifth of Ukraine to Crimea in 2014. He built this bridge to create the capacity to do precisely what he's doing now that we've left office. When I saw the bridge blow up, I realized this was the Ukrainians executing a important strategic target for them, and well done for that. And then you see the response. The response isn't a military response. When I hear people saying we've got to figure out how to have these folks all get along, we should remind them Vladimir Putin has shown no indication that he's prepared to either fight a military conflict, but rather is actually engaged in terrorizing civilians, and he's shown no interest in an off-ramp. This is going to take continued American resolve, European resolve, and to your guests you had on earlier's point, we need to make sure that those that are playing footsie around the edges, the Chinese, the Indians, the others who have not actually acknowledged that what Vladimir Putin is doing is deeply inconsistent with the international order, the basic idea that sovereign nations ought to exist. We need to make sure each one of those understands the side that they are picking.
So, I think there's a lot of people looking at all of this at this point and saying, okay, we all understand that this was a Russian aggression of massive force, surrounded this country and moved in, and not provoked by Ukraine. But now and we all remember the days when we were offering Vladimir Zelensky a ride out.
Yes, that's how
right. Like, look, we're going to protect you. We think you're on the side of right, and we believe in your cause, but you're going to get crushed by the Russian army, and so we're happy to get you out. He said, no, I don't want to ride. I want to stay right here and fight. And to his credit, he has done that in an enormously, I think, surprising and successful way. But it has pulled us deeper and deeper into this situation of supporting them. And now, if we humiliate, not we, but if he's humiliated Putin to the point where he does go with some sort of low-yield nuclear weapon, then what do we do? What's next?
We just have to remember, though, there's no moral equivalence here. This is self-humiliation. These were choices that he made that backfired on him. And so we ought not fault ourselves. When I hear people talk about, well, we're engaged. No, the truth is he brought this on himself, and you have to start from that position. He has no intention of stopping. This is going to require continued effort. We've been too slow. When we said we'd provide HIMARS, we provided 4 instead of 40. We didn't provide enough ammunition. Every day that we give Vladimir Putin some idea that we're not prepared to do the things that will deter him. With deterrence, Martha, it's the simple idea. In his head, the cost of continuing this conflict has to be too high for him. It's what we did for 4 years. I talked about 2014. He didn't invade Europe on our watch during the Trump administration. You can say that was just pure luck. I think it was because Vladimir Putin think that the calculus changed when President Biden came in and he saw what happened in Afghanistan. We have to restore deterrence, and there's only one way to do that. That is with firm resolve, commitment from our partners and friends, and a seriousness of mission, including providing them targeting intelligence, precision targeting intelligence that we have the capacity to do, and we have not yet done.
This is a soundbite from Mike Mullen over the weekend. I want to get your reaction to this. Let's play it.
With respect to how it all ends, and that really is up to, I think, Tony Blinken and other diplomats to figure out a way to get both Zelensky and Putin to the table.
Is that the answer? Is that what needs to happen at some point?
It's going to end that way. It will end with conversations, just as just about every war, absent total defeat of one side or the other, ends. We're certainly something we should be engaged in today, but there's no evidence that Vladimir Putin's prepared to engage in that without
He
asking.
mentioned it in his speech. You know, he said we should come to the negotiating table, but he said none of these places that I have just declared as part of Russia are part of that negotiation.
Right. Look, the Ukrainians and Russians have been negotiating as part of a quadrilateral negotiation since Crimea. And those negotiations went nowhere. Vladimir Putin then conducted another act of aggression. He's not going to get back to the status quo ex ante. He's going to have to learn to accept that. I'm convinced that the West can provide it. It matters. It matters not just for Ukraine. We forget. We're doing pretty well. The Ukrainians are doing pretty well. They have fought valiantly. Zelensky should get tons of credit for that. But Vladimir Putin's idea of greater Russia hasn't changed. And if we if he laid down his weapons today, it would only be temporary.
Do you think that the leadership that we have here in this country right now is the leadership that you would want to tempt nuclear war with?
It's not the leadership I would have picked. I wish I'd have gotten 4 more years to be the Secretary of State and President Trump were still in charge. I pray that it doesn't come to that. I pray this administration gets it right. This is not partisan or political. I hope these leaders, President Biden most especially, and the leaders around him in European countries will get this right.
Enormous challenge,
Yes,
and a lot of different opinions out there. We're going to, get all of these discussions into the mix because it's a very significant moment in the history of the world, really. Secretary Pompeo, always good to have you with us.
Martha, great to be with you.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Congratulations on the book cover.
Thank
Never
you.
give an inch. We'll look forward to talking with you more about that.
MikePompeo.com. You can pick it
All
up and
right.
pre-order. I'll sign one for you, Martha.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to it. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.